Hi guys, so something's rumbling again. We want to talk about the earthquake situation that we have not only on the Reykjanes Peninsula, on the whole Reykjanes Ridge, and most important along the magma tunnel that has formed on November 10th, that 15-kilometer long magma tunnel that extends underneath Grindavik and into the sea. We're talking about a golf course in Grindavik, and we're going to talk about what the civil defense is saying and what the police chief of Suðurnes is saying about the current situation. And the Met Office has released a new graph that shows how much magma is in the magma chamber as of right now. And then we will hear some scientists that will give us an opinion of how powerful the next eruption will be and what they think where it will be. So stay tuned, have a coffee with me. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's start with Eldey. Eldey, it's basically a piece of rock that is off the coast, basically of Grindavik, roughly 15 kilometers off the coast of Grindavik. And we've seen some higher earthquake above magnitude 3, above magnitude 3.5 and higher in the last few days and couple of weeks. So, and these earthquakes are along the Reykjanes Ridge, the North Atlantic Ridge, where two tectonic plates are moving away from each other, basically, so to speak, tearing Iceland apart. It runs right through Iceland. Of course, this creates tension, earthquakes, and gives a way for magma to come up to the surface. So, is this earthquake related to what's going on the Reykjanes Peninsula with these eruptions that we're seeing there? It could be because there's tension building up with this magma chamber filling up. So we just had Icelandic time after 4 o'clock at night. There were earthquakes that began to be measured southwest of Eldey and the Reykjanes Ridge. The largest one was 3.5 in size. The natural disaster experts are saying it's related to the tectonic plate movements that are moving away from each other. They're saying this activity is similar to the activity that these plate movements have shown at the Suðurnes area. There has also been some seismic activity through 230 kilometers west-southwest of Eldey on the Reykjanes Ridge since 4 o'clock last night. So the whole North Atlantic Ridge is showing some activity, as it seems. So the Icelandic Meteorological Office, one of their experts, has said there were about a dozen earthquakes in this area, and the largest was 3.5, and then several between 2 and 3 in size. So they were all in the higher ranges. So it seems that this activity that has started has reduced now again. So it's becoming more quiet again. They say in February and early March, there was similar activity in similar areas. So they're saying that the earthquakes can be attributed to plate movements rather than directly to what is happening at the magma corridor in the Suðurnes crater series. They say there have been a few isolated tremors during the rest of the night after the activity increased for a while yesterday afternoon. And those earthquakes had their source east of Sillingarfell in the same area as the last eruption. Let's have a look at the maps here. So you see the red dots, these are earthquakes that have happened in the last 4 hours. The other colors, you see the color chart here, it's a little longer while ago. So what you can see about these earthquakes, basically they're really along that magma tunnel that has formed on November 10th. This tunnel is 15-kilometer long. This was a magma intrusion. So from that magma chamber, the magma chamber was quite full, and it did send magma on its way to form this underground tunnel full of magma, but it didn't have enough pressure to reach the surface. But 15 kilometers long, that's quite a ways, and that was going underneath Grindavik, and that's why Grindavik was shaking so much. And that's why they had their first emergency evacuation, and the most damage was done during that event because the earthquake swarm was the biggest, and it was rumbling right underneath Grindavik at that time. The magma had to grind its way, had to build that tunnel. So at that time, existing fissures, like old fissures that can be seen on aerial pictures that always have to been there, they widened, they got longer, sudden sinkholes formed, crack collapse, stuff like this. You can see again on this map here, the green star, that's the earthquake above 3. That's the 3.5 earthquakes that we're seeing here. And then you can see it follows right on the ridge. And then you can see the chart with the dots here. The yellow dots, basically there we also see that we're going higher. That was that swarm. And since then, all over the Reykjanes Peninsula, there were more earthquakes. And then you can see just recently, just as of now, the red dots, that's again along the magma tunnel in the Sutnuka area along. And the thing is, we are seeing earthquakes in an area where they do expect the next eruption. That's in the Sutnuka crater series. That's east of Sillingerfell. That's basically when you draw a line from the Blue Lagoon to the eruption area. That's the east of Sillingerfell area. But also more to the south, like Hagafell, but also south of Mount Thorbjörn. So basically you have the Blue Lagoon, then Mount Thorbjörn, and then Grindavik. And the ones that are south of Mount Thorbjörn, those are the ones that I find, I don't want to say interesting, I don't want to say concerning yet, but could they indicate that magma's flowing to the doorsteps of Grindavik and that we could see an eruption there? Scientists don't rule it out, as always. They think it'll erupt where we have seen this eruption. Magnus Tumi Gudmundsson, he's also an expert about this system. He says, well, you know, you have to take into account the more that magma chamber fills up, the more likely you have a possibility that you could see a more powerful eruption. But then on the other hand, he says, yeah, but I think they'll be quite of the same as they have always been. So which is it? Which with these scientists, guys, right? So will we see a more powerful eruption or won't we see? It's basically, they say one thing, but then they say the other thing, which basically, if you have an indication in this direction and in this direction, it equals to 0, meaning, well, we don't know. If you look at that updated graph that the Icelandic Meteorological Office has released today, you can see how full that magma chamber is right now. It really has surpassed the amount that it had when all the other eruptions had started. So we're way over 16 million cubic meters in that magma chamber. The other events, intrusions and eruptions have started when we had like 8 to 13 million cubic meters. Only December it was higher. That's the curve. That's the only curve you see here that is still higher than what we currently see. And then the experts are saying, well, it's kind of makes sense because what we've seen in previous eruptions in other areas is that the more eruptions you have in one area, the more amount you need in the magma chamber to trigger the next event. So that's why it has to be fuller to trigger the next event. Well, but then the December eruption where it was so full, it's kind of out of line, right? And then the March 2nd intrusion where you see that super short line here, that's out of line because that's way less than the other events, right? Then it took 2 weeks and we saw the March 16th eruption, which lasted way longer than the other ones. So then the scientists are saying, well, the whole system could change. It could also change location. It could come out at Eldey, like west of Grindavik. So I don't think that Eldey is that likely right now. But as I said, they know that they don't know. What they said, and I think that makes sense, is also this magma chamber underneath the Blue Lagoon in the Svartsengi area, Svartsengi power plant, has been expanding and subsiding. The land has been rising and subsiding with all these events. If the magma flows out, the land subsides because that thing is getting empty. But the crust can get more damaged and brittle. You know, if you have solid surface, but the more this is shaking and moved around, it gets more brittle. And that's a reason why out from that magma chamber, since we have a slower increase, a slower fill amount right now of that magma that's coming into that chamber than in the other events, there could be some little tears from the outer areas of that magma chamber, and magma could intrude into outer areas around that magma chamber. So that's why there's not enough pressure to trigger the next event, because there's some relief for that magma chamber. Is that good for what's right on top of it? If magma's reaching into these areas, really, I don't think it isn't. If you're watching my videos about Campi Flegrei, where there's calderas, this super volcano, they have a magma chamber confirmed now at a shallow depth of 4 kilometers, same as here underneath Swartsengi. And they're saying it is a risk that magma can reach the surface because it's not far to reach the surface, only 4 kilometers. And they're also saying the top layer gets more brittle by all that bradyseism that they're having there. The land dries, the land subsiding. So if that is possible there, why are we not talking more about the possibility that this could happen in Iceland too? The scientists have said this is a possibility, but they kind of put this in the back of their heads. They're thinking magma's always taking the way of least resistance. It will go into the Sutnuka crater series again. But the way of least resistance is maybe happening on top of the magma chamber too, by magma already slowly infiltrating these areas and maybe rising to the top a little bit. They say if it erupts in the Sutnuka area, again, little to no warning because the channels are there. If it did erupt, come straight up to the Blue Lagoon, 4 to 7 hours warning time because it has to grind a new tunnel. Is that so? We don't know, guys. The police and the civil defense, they're releasing regular updates about the areas, and let's talk about that a little bit. Police chief in Sudorns has released a statement on May 16th. And he says the magma accumulation underneath Swartsengi remains stable. About 16 million cubic meters of magma have been added to the magma chamber since March 16th, since the last eruption that ended on May 9th has started. There is an increased probability of a new magma flow and an eruption in the coming days. The Sutnuka crater series is the most likely to erupt. Eruption warning may be very short. So we already knew that. The risk assessment of the Icelandic Meteorological Office was updated on May 10th last, and it is valid until tomorrow if everything remains the same. That's the hazard map with the different risk areas. And then he's talking about my friend, the Blue Lagoon. The Blue Lagoon has resumed operations after consultation with the police chief in Sudorns. Yeah, that's a long time ago, right? They basically reopened right after this eruption has begun, right? So that's nothing new. I guess what they're saying now is to make you feel safer. There's now a dense network of gas meters in the operating area of the Blue Lagoon. There's also a weather station located on one of the buildings of the Blue Lagoon. Monitoring and response to potential gas pollution is now done in a completely different way than it has been in the past. In the Blue Lagoon's operational area, a security representative on behalf of the company attends the daily morning meetings of the operations management and field management. Yeah, gas pollution, yeah. Nice, yeah. But if there's an eruption close by and a lava flow, or you know what we just talked about, yeah, who cares about the gas pollution meters, right? That's not your biggest problem then anymore. And then in the same line, he says, and that is something that I still really don't understand, it is not permitted to enter the eruption area from the parking lots of the Blue Lagoon or from the Grindavik road. That's the main road that leads to the Blue Lagoon and into Grindavik. Zone 3, that's where they don't want anybody. That's attached on the hazard assessment map because that is dangerous, right? That's where the next eruption could happen. And then we see that hazard map. Swartsengi power plant, Blue Lagoon, Grindavik, they're in that hazard area, right? Danger zone, as they call it. So that ban for zone 3, and you see how close zone 3 is to other areas, right? So the ban does not apply to responders, a group of scientists and individuals organized by the Icelandic Journalists Association with reference to the association's agreement with the police chief in Sudorns. So that was not allowed during the eruption. Now he's allowing it. And they're further saying in times of danger, the police chief is authorized to dismiss or remove people from the danger zone. And now it comes when I said I don't understand. Those who have business in dangerous areas are advised to regularly check the air quality in the area on the website of the environmental agency, blah, blah, blah. He gives all the links. And then further information, they're saying again, residents, employees, and visitors stay in danger zones at their own risk. So that's the hazard map. That's tourists too, but the tourists don't even know that they're in a hazard area if they go for a relaxing spa day. And there is nothing on the website that would indicate that they are in this hazard map. And the hazard map is not on the website of the Blue Lagoon, and that statement is not there for you to find. Further says, each person must be responsible for their own actions or inactions. So if something happens to you, your fault. The police chief makes it clear that Grindavik is not a place for children or children to play. There are no functioning schools and the infrastructure is in state of disrepair. Police chief does not recommend that residents stay in the town at all. Yeah, that they have been stating this the last weeks, right? There are many cracks in the ground in and around the town. Cracks can open without warning. The danger is considered to be very high from landslides into these cracks, into these fissures, so they could collapse, crack collapse, fissure movements, lava flow, and gas contamination. So I don't want to repeat all that because we've talked about this. It's basically the same that they're always stating. They're still saying Grindavik is close to everyone other than emergency responders, town residents, employees of Grindavik town, companies, contractors, and those who need to help residents. Media personnel are authorized to enter the town in the same way as residents and company employees. For safety reasons, it's not, this is new. For safety reasons, it is not considered timely to allow tourists to the geysers that are in the area. Dangers in and around the craters are landfall into the fissures, fissure movements, eruptions without warning, lava flows, pyroclastic and gas pollution, and earthquakes. So we know that they had been hauling the tourists still to the geysers, and then some tourists seem to have had the idea that from there they could walk into Grindavik and take some selfies there. So basically, you can't go to the geysers, but no problem to take a spa day at the Blue Lagoon where the Magma Chamber is right underneath you. That's not affected, right? Because that's the money maker, in my opinion. It's making me angry, guys. Really making me angry. And I'm getting more and more messages from you still. Wow, we didn't know that. We were there, we didn't know that. Also, they're saying there are still dangers in the area and conditions inside and outside, even outside. These danger zones can change with little notice. And then dangers can be hidden outside in the marked areas. There's still closure posts at these access roads, like the Lagoonsweg, Grindavikoveg, Nesveg, and Sudorstrandarveg. Escape routes from Grindavik are via Nesveg, Sudorstrandarveg, and Grindavikoveg. That's basically out like north, west, and east. We know that Grindavikovego has been destroyed by lava flows at Grindavik, at the Blue Lagoon, like twice, both areas twice. Then they're talking that they have installed sirens at the Blue Lagoon and in Grindavik. The police chief does not recommend staying in town in Grindavik overall and cannot guarantee the safety under the current conditions. That's what they're basically saying, and then they're referencing to some laws and stuff like this. So I think they're really covering their butts should something happen there. But at the same time, Icelandic press reports about the golf course. Grindavik golf course is prepared to open. They're having some areas closed because there's still like crack collapse and areas endangered by the events on November 10th. I mean, this golf course is in between old fissures anyways, but they're saying, yeah, they have about 350 members and they're opening, they're mowing the grass, and it's also great. They have interviewed an employee that sits on a mower, drives around, whether he's scared that he could maybe fall into a sudden sinkhole in the golf course. And he's like, oh no, not at all. I'm so tired of these evacuations. He's renting an apartment somewhere else right now, but as soon as he can, he always goes back to Grindavik and lives there. So, and he thinks that there is a future for the town, that they all can go back living in Grindavik. So golf course will be open. It's planned to open it up for tourists as well. Yeah, what can I say, right? If you look at the map, and there's also the Eldey, where they think the system might change and might go to Eldey and erupt there. So if you look, there's the golf course, there's Eldey, there's the hazard map. What can I say? It just doesn't make sense. It seems if a place makes money and if you can haul tourists to that place, the exceptions are here. All the other danger rules and limits does not apply. Same thing, there's a tourist association that's planning to haul in tourists in buses to restaurants in Grindavik so that these restaurants can make money. So also exemptions, right? If there's money to be made. That's my opinion, and that's making me angry as always, guys. So that was my update. There is a little bit about the defense walls. It seems they need another week and a half to finish the second row of the defense walls that they're building now inside the old defense walls. So should there be another lava breach, that these second row of defense walls can catch that lava and divert it away from the town, because it is very, very likely that with the next eruption, lava will flow over the existing defense walls, because that long eruption that we have seen that started on March 16th has built up lava layers, a lava carpet, and the height exceeds the height of the existing defense walls in some areas. So it's very easy for a new powerful liquid lava flow to flow over these defense walls, create some like a waterfall, and really flow faster towards the town. So work's on the way. They're saying this is their last big project in Grindavik. They hope that this is it, that this will save the town. We will see. I'm sure it will be tested very, very soon, guys. So stay tuned. I'll see you very, very soon with another update, guys. I'll put some videos in the end screen that are very, very interesting. Please leave this video a like. I'm finishing my coffee, and then I'm out of here, guys. Bye-bye.